Alright guys, welcome to your 59th, actually I think it's your 59th. I never check and make sure what tutorial I'm doing before I start recording. Probably should do that. But anyways, I think it's your 59th tutorial, so welcome. And now that you guys understand the basics of Matinee, what it is, how it's used, and kind of the neat little overview of Matinee, I can begin talking to you guys about the more intricate details of Matinee. So the very first thing I want to mention is how to open Matinee. So we have a couple options here. The two most common are if you go ahead and click this little director's board, you can go ahead and open Matinee for your scene, or what you typically want to do is open Kismet, and Kismet and Matinee are kind of like real close cousins. Whenever you're working with Matinee, you're probably working with Kismet, and a lot of time whenever you're working with Kismet, you're going to be working with Matinee. So if you go ahead and you have a Matinee in your Kismet, go ahead and double click that, and it's going to open up the Matinee as well. So now what I can do is I can actually, let me go ahead and slide this over there. And, well, let me go ahead and talk about our Matinee object right here first. So whenever we have a Matinee object, it has inputs on the left-hand side and outputs on the right-hand side, just like any other, action or any other object we would add. So the inputs, of course, play, what that does, reverses your animation, stop, pauses your animation, change direction. Again, these are all self-explanatory. The outputs are pretty self-explanatory too. Whenever your animation completes, it's going to fire this little completed right here. And if it's reversed, it's going to fire this. However, two things that probably aren't as self-explanatory is this data and this door moving variable right here. This data object basically stores how your animation should be played. It pretty much stores all that keyframe data and timing data. So you can actually go ahead and copy this and stick it on another Matinee, and you basically would have the exact same Matinee. So just remember, this data stores all the animation data of how and when your animation should play. Now this variable right here, these are going to be changing depending on how your Matinee is set up. Since we have a door moving, if I scroll, you can see that this is the thing that's moving. We now have an interrupt actor, which is actually that door, that is automatically built into our Matinee sequence. So if we wanted to go ahead and, decide that we want another door to stick in there, all we'd have to do is change this variable, and now it would play the exact same animation with a different variable. So again, these Matinee objects are pretty self-explanatory. You just got to watch out for the data and basically what object is your animation using, and that's what this is right here. And those will change. So now let me go ahead and talk about the Matinee window. I guess I'll go ahead and just talk about the toolbar first. So at the very top, probably the most common toolbar you're going to be using except for this big timeline. Um, Let me go ahead and scroll out to give a better view so I can demonstrate some of this stuff. So the very first thing I want to mention is this add keyframe. So we can actually add keyframes, and remember I talked about keyframes in the last tutorial in a couple ways. We can go ahead and slide this time slider to wherever we want to add a keyframe, and we can go ahead and select the track we want to use and hit enter, and it will go ahead and, as you can see, it'll add a keyframe right there. Or what we could do, if we right click it, we can delete that keyframe. We can go ahead and hit this, and it'll add a keyframe there as well. So, whatever floats your boat, you can use whatever method you want. So I'm going to go ahead and right click and delete that, and I'm done with that. This next little drop down list has to do with the curve editor, and we're going to be talking about that in a few seconds, but for now, just hold on. So these other things are play your animation. So if you go ahead and bring your animation back to the beginning and you play it, check it out in my perspective view. It's going to play my animation right there. Pretty cool, huh? Now this loop play, we're going to be talking about that in like a couple minutes, but anyways, we're just talking about these other ones for now. The stop animation, if you play it, you can go ahead and stop it, and you can go ahead and play it in reverse. Again, all self-explanatory. Now this right here is the speed of your animation. So if you have a really intricate animation and you want to make sure it's working exactly how you want, you can go ahead and slow the speed down to like 25 and then play it, and it'll play only 25% as fast, aka a quarter slow. I don't even know how to say it. 25% as fast as it normally would. So basically take 4 times longer. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that at 100. Now, undo and redo, you obviously know what those mean. And now, I guess I'll talk to you guys about the curve editor. By default, you have another section in here that's hidden. If you go ahead and click this, it's going to bring up this section called the curve editor. And if you still can't see it, if you go to window, you have another option of viewing it and hiding it right there. So what the curve editor is it's basically a section that, you know how I told you guys that you're going to go ahead and make keys, and keys are pretty much like checkpoints, and the UDK takes care of all the in-between stuff. Well, with the curve editor, you can actually edit that in-between stuff, but we're not going to be really messing with it in these tutorials because the UDK typically does a pretty good job of handling that in-between stuff, so I'm going to go ahead and hide that for now and move on. So this next thing I want, oh, by the way, this has to deal with that curve editor too. So again, this and this button right here, we're not going to be using all that much. So the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is toggle snap. Now this toggle snap and the snap size kind of go hand in hand. Whenever you want to move keys, you can go ahead and hold down control and move your keys just like, you can move, I don't know, anything. So as you notice, we have these gray lines that kind of indicate the half-second marks of our timeline. So we can go ahead and if we have snap enabled, whenever you try to move our keys are going to pop to those half-second marks. So if you want to keep everything nice and even, it's a good idea to toggle snap. Also, if you want to pop everything, bigger or smaller, like pop everything to a second, we can go ahead and have some bigger snaps. But typically you want to use that at like, zero point 0.5, and if you're working in really intricate animation where every millisecond counts, you're going to want to go ahead and untoggle that snap so you have full control over your keyframes. So now this fit view to sequence and all these buttons right here just pretty much give you a customized view depending on what you want to look at. But typically I just like to use my scroll wheel on my mouse to scroll out. I think it's a little easier to see. And these buttons right here we won't really get involved with. So basically that's a real quick overview of the toolbar and also the Matinee object. And in the next tutorial I'm going to be covering hopefully the rest of this stuff right here. So for now, thank you guys for watching and I will see you guys later.